Hi, folks, and welcome. Today, we're taking a deep dive into the first year of Cities, Skylines 2. It launched back in October 2023, and, well, it's certainly had an interesting year since then.
It really has. A bit of a roller coaster, you could say.
Exactly. And we're basing our chat today on a great retrospective video by Jumbo Pixel. He uses this framework of dubs and Ls, wins and losses, basically to assess how the game's doing.
Yeah, it's a really useful way to break it down, especially for a game with such high expectations following the original.
Right. So our mission for you, listening in, is to figure out, has Cities, Skylines 2 actually delivered on its promise after this first year? Or is it, still kind of finding its feet?
It's a key question. That gap between what was hoped for and what's been delivered, it's significant.
Okay, so let's start with the positives, the dubs. Despite that rocky launch everyone remembers, there have been some steps forward, right?
Oh, definitely. Despite the initial stumbles, the developers have made some real progress in patches. For instance, they've done a lot of work on the economy, making resource chains, demand simulation, that sort of thing, feel more realistic, more impactful for planning.
So it feels more like you're actually managing a city now.
More so, yeah. And they added some quality of life stuff too, like better controls for public transport, which was much needed.
Okay.
But the really big turnaround, the one Jumbo Pixel highlighted, was the Beachfront Properties DLC.
Yes, I remember the reaction to that initially. Not great.
Not great at all. It was seen as pretty overpriced for what little content it offered. A real L at first.
So how did it become a dub?
Well, the developers made it completely free for everyone who owned the base game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was a huge move. It wasn't just fixing a mistake. It was a really smart piece of PR, honestly. Turned a lot of that frustration into goodwill.
That's quite something. A definite win, then.
A big one, yeah. Shows they can listen sometimes.
Okay, but while those wins are encouraging, often it's the losses, the Ls, that really stick with players, especially early on. And this is where, according to Jumbo Pixel, things get, let's say, really interesting and maybe a bit frustrating for players.
Yeah, this is where the bigger challenges lie. Let's start with the modding system.
Right, modding was huge for the first game.
Absolutely massive. But for Cities, Skylines 2, it's still officially in beta a whole year after launch.
Well, still.
Wow. Yep. And while the goal is this native cross-platform system, which sounds good on paper, the huge miss is the lack of Steam Workshop integration.
Oof. That's basically the lifeblood of the original game's community, wasn't it?
Exactly. It powered years of content and creativity. Its absence here is really felt.
Okay, what else is on the L list?
Well, the patch updates themselves. It's been described as kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Meaning they fix things but break others.
Pretty much. Patches often address existing bugs, which is good, but then they frequently introduce new problems. It creates this frustrating cycle for players who just want stability.
That sounds exhausting. What about promised content? People who bought in early.
That's another major point. Anyone who bought the expansion pass has faced really significant delays. The content they paid for up front just hasn't arrived on schedule at all.
Not great for building trust with your early supporters.
Not at all. And speaking of delays, there's the whole console situation.
Yeah, the console version. Still waiting.
Still waiting. It's been indefinitely delayed. No concrete release date, no real timeline provided.
So console players are just left hanging.
Pretty much. Just waiting with very little information.
That's tough. So with all these issues, mods, patches, delays, how has the communication from the developers been?
Not always stellar, according to Jumbo Pixel's take. The analysis described it as generally mixed, sometimes vague, and even sloppy.
Sloppy? How so?
Just a lack of clear, consistent messaging, especially around these delays and the ongoing issues. It just adds to the uncertainty and, frankly, the frustration for the community.
Right. People just want to know what's going on.
Exactly. Transparency goes a long way.
Okay, so taking all this in the dubs, the Ls, this whole roller coaster year, where does Jumbo Pixel conclude Cities? Skylines 2 actually stands right now. Has it turned a corner?
Well, the conclusion is pretty clear, actually. While there have definitely been improvements, and the game does have a good foundation underneath it all, it still fundamentally feels like an early access game.
Even after a full year?
Even after a year. That perception of being, well, unfinished, plagued by these persistent issues and major delays, it hasn't really gone away.
So, potential, yes, but still very much a work in progress. A complex picture, really.
It is. A game with ambition, certainly, but one that's had a profoundly challenging first year.
So we wrap up there for today's deep dive. Quite the journey for Cities. Skylines 2.
Indeed. And maybe a final thought for you to chew on. Consider this whole saga. What does it tell us about our expectations for games at launch nowadays? In this age of constant updates and patches. And maybe more importantly, how is this kind of experience reshaping that relationship, that dialogue between game developers and us, the players? Something to think about.